everybody. Welcome. We're so glad you could join us today. Happy Tuesday afternoon. I am so excited that I have my friend Faith Berens here with me. And I know a lot of you guys have been really excited about this interview because she is going to bring a lot to the table: encouragement, motivation, resources. So I'm going to do a quick intro and then I'm going to let Faith introduce herself. Faith is the Special Needs Consultant for HSLDA. So she is one of the top people in her field, and she's going to talk to us today about your students that are special needs. And you guys can get on live. We would love to have you hop in and give us all your comments and ask questions. You have an expert right here. So ask any questions that you guys might have. And at the end of our interview, Faith is going to go through and we can answer some of those questions. So welcome, Faith. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited this worked out.
Yes. We actually just hopped on like 20 seconds before. We were having some technical difficulties, but we're here and we're excited to be here. So Faith, will you share a little bit about yourself, what you do, your homeschool journey, and just share with everybody who you are?
Sure. So I am a mom of two. I have a 10-year-old son and a 17-year-old daughter, and we've been homeschooling for 13 years. And let's see, I used to be a public school teacher and a private school teacher. So homeschooling was really not on our radar. I didn't ever think I was going to homeschool. And because of some learning challenges that my daughter was having, and just wanting to be home more with my kids and really wanting to be the one to raise them and to bring them up in, our faith and everything, we kind of just fell into homeschooling. But it's really been a blessing because both of my kiddos do have some learning struggles. So, God just worked it out for me to be able to work part-time for HSLDA as a special needs consultant and be able to work from home flexibly and serve other homeschooling families across the nation. I do that via email and phone calls and speaking around the country at homeschool conferences. So it's just been fantastic to be able to use my training and background as a reading specialist, as a dyslexia specialist, to not only, to not only serve homeschooling families, but also work with my own kiddos.
Wow, that's a total provision of the Lord, and we're excited that we have you. So what you do with HSLDA is you're a consultant. So does that mean?
I am so sorry. If you all can hear the dog, something is going on in my yard, like maybe or something.
Oh no. Okay. Well, hopefully it's not.
We live like in the middle of nowhere, and there's been a lot of bear activity. So sorry about that.
Good. No, that's okay. We're here in Idaho, so we understand some of that. So I've had so many questions come in already for you. And I think probably the big question that I get left and right from parents that I know that you can answer is, how can a homeschool parent get their child assessed if they believe that there are some learning disabilities? Because we don't have the access. I mean, we don't have someone else checking in with our kids, but moms have guts, and we know and we understand as we're teaching our kids, we know, and many of us have multiple kids, so we can kind of, not that we compare our kids, but if we kind of have that feeling like maybe my child has a special need of any sort, where do we go? What can we do?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So there's several different options. So one option, which is sort of my least favorite, but I'll throw it out there. Let me just say that if parents decide that they want an evaluation and they can't afford that, or it's not available to them via like insurance coverage, and typically it isn't covered under insurance, if they request in writing to the school district to do an assessment, the school has 60 days under the law to do so. So that's one option. Now, our attorneys and our stance at HSLDA is private services are best, if at all possible, to avoid any entanglement, possible legal entanglement.
Right.
But I like to share with parents, because often parents will ask, well, do I have the right to thus and so services?
Okay.
So they do have the right under the law to ask for the school district to do an assessment and evaluation.
Okay.
However, I caution parents about that because often parents want their child assessed because they want to know, is there something going on, or why is learning hard? Why is this student struggling? And school districts assess to determine eligibility for services. They don't really assess to diagnose and find out the why as to what's going on. So I will tell parents to consider your different options for where you go for testing, but also to start with your why, because your why is going to drive where do I go and who do I turn to.
So if you don't want to use the schools as your services, then that wouldn't be the best place to go to get your testing done.
Correct.
Because they're just looking for eligibility. So what are some private options then?
Sure. So we at HSLDA have a private database of homeschool-friendly private professionals. All those professionals have come recommended to us by other homeschooling families or just our networking across the nation. And they've all been vetted and screened. And so we have that database. So members can call us and we will help them search by their state, their zip code, the type of professional they're looking for, the type of service they're looking for, and we'll try to help them find somebody. So that's another option.
Okay.
The other option is for parents to network through their own community of faith, their state and their local organizations, sometimes state and local organizations or support group leaders will maintain a list, or will have started a directory. So that's another way. Understood.org and International Dyslexia Association, some national charitable organizations or national organizations often have searchable directories for services like a psychologist or a therapist or a tutor.
Okay.
So there are national organizations. And then the other option is to check with your medical providers and to ask for a referral to a private psychologist or an audiologist and a speech and language pathologist are great medical providers to begin with if you suspect a learning disability, because a lot of learning struggles are rooted in auditory processing or language processing problems. So as a dyslexia specialist, I tell parents, let's start with a medical person and let's get some screenings done to rule some things out or to hone in on what's going on before jumping into like a full-fledged assessment with a psychologist, which is time intensive. It's over several days and it's pretty costly if you have to pay out of pocket.
Okay. Wow. This is great information. And the first thing that we're going to do when we're off this is I'm going to give a link to HSLDA. So if you're not a member, become a member. Because these will give you these resources. So the second question I get is, can I homeschool a special needs child? So many people feel like I just need to put my kid in the system because it's beyond what I can do. I don't have the degree or the specialty that you do, Faith. So can I homeschool a child with special needs?
Yes, absolutely.
That's the answer we wanted.
Yes. And I honestly just want to encourage parents. I just really want people to understand that. So I have a learning disability. I have dyscalculia and my husband is dyslexic and he's super bright. So we're both struggling students and learners ourselves, and we are homeschooling. Okay. My mom helps us with our homeschooling a couple days a week. So I always like to tell parents, every person actually has some type of different ability. We all are special and we all have special needs.
I love that.
Okay. We really do. All learners have some type of special needs and we all have strengths and we all have weaknesses. So absolutely parents can homeschool a child with special needs, but the level of disability or learning challenge, they may have to outsource. They may have to be creative. And so for me, I never really did much of the math teaching with my daughter because she was really struggling with math and I have the math disability myself. So we outsourced to Steve Demi and Matthew C. and video instruction. And then her dad would help her with math because that was his area of strength. Now, he wouldn't be helping with spelling, my husband, because his disability, his dyslexia, that really impacted spelling for him. So, but parents really are able to customize instruction. They can meet their child where they are developmentally. And that's really one of the big strengths, the big beauties of homeschooling, is parents are able to meet their child where they are on the continuum of development, be it for reading or math. And in education and in educational psychology, we call that teaching in the zone of proximal development. And that's the sweet spot. It's where the child can make the most growth when we meet somebody where they are, where learning is not too high, it's not too hard, but it's also not too easy. It's really teaching them in that sweet spot. That's the zone of proximal development. And that's the beauty of homeschooling.
I was just going to say, that sounds to me like homeschool is probably the ideal setting for a child with special needs, because they do get that. I mean, you can't get them into that zone. And a little story that I had is I had a really good friend, and she had a student that was a child that was dyslexic. And when she was going into high school, they went and had her tested and they got her tutor. And the tutor said, wow, if this child would have been in the public school, she would have failed in a lot of areas that she's actually thriving in. For example, reading comprehension. She was through the roof in reading comprehension because she had individualized. I mean, her mom sat there with her every day and read aloud to her. So she had that reading comprehension, where in the schools, and I remember when I was a teacher, I can't sit and read with every student on their individual levels.
Right.
So their reading was low, so their comprehension would have also been low. But because this child was homeschooled, the tutor was just absolutely mind blown. Like, this is the best thing that we could be doing for these students. So that was the answer I was hoping for. Yes, you can do it if you have a child with special needs. In fact, I believe that God made you the best person to do it, actually. And that's why he gave you that child and gave that child you. But like you said, there is some outsourcing. There are resources to get help with. So you discussed resources. Is there a way to afford? So say we don't want to go with the school system setting, and we'd like to do some of this private stuff. Are there ways that we can financially still get some of the benefits to afford the private help?
Yeah, so some states do have like state scholarships. So for instance, I know Ohio is one, Florida is one. There are some states that have state funding available, particularly for students on the autism spectrum. So parents have to weigh that out. Do they want to tap into that funding? We have our charitable arm of HSLDA, which used to be called the Homeschool Foundation, and now it's Compassion. So we have grants available for families, for widows, military, if they're in some type of crisis or they've had a house fire or whatever have you, and also for students with special needs. So we've been able to fund grants for assistive technology or special camps and therapies. So we do have that available. That's one source. I also like to direct people to Johnny and Friends. That's Johnny Erickson Tada's ministry.
Right.
Because she has a directory where people can find disability ministries, but also scholarships and grants. So those are a couple of places.
That is wonderful. And we're popping up some links here. So we will get you the link to Johnny and Friends. And then you gave a couple others that we'll get on here. So if people want them after, they can get those links. So the Johnny and Friends, down that same line, is there something else? I know that sometimes these parents feel secluded and alone. And I mean, we're already homeschooling. So hopefully you're in an organization or you're part of a community for homeschooling. But are there groups online or anything that these parents can kind of come together as a community, bounce ideas off each other, support each other, internet work that you know of online?
Yeah, parents besides your amazing group.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Um,
you guys can get on. That's another awesome benefit that we have with the Homeschool Idaho discussion group is this kind of stuff could be discussed here, there. But and there are a lot of other things and HSLDA, but are there specific groups for special needs families to kind of get together and communicate?
There are, and there are so many now Facebook groups. So
Yeah,
I would
that's what I
say,
was
I mean,
thinking.
you can search Facebook and find homeschooling with Down syndrome,
Okay.
homeschooling with dyslexia, homeschooling with autism. So Facebook is a great place to find community. I serve on the board for a national organization called SPED Homeschool, if
Okay.
you're familiar with that.
I am. But will you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so SPED Homeschool was started by Peggy Ployhar, and Peggy used to be the special needs consultant for THC, Texas Homeschool Coalition, as well as Mache. And she has a child with special needs. So Peggy is just a really great advocate. She has such a heart for helping families and serving. And so that organization exists, and there's Facebook Live, there's a community, there's all kinds of resources, free resources listed on our website. There's a network there where therapists and tutors can be listed. So families who are looking also to find support can network through SPED Homeschool. So that's one place to go for sure. I love Marianne Sunderland's Homeschooling with Dyslexia, and that's a great community. And she has a course for parents, and that's really a great way to find support
Okay.
as well.
Wonderful. So you're not alone out there, moms and dads. If you are taking this on, you are not alone. There are so many resources. There is a community of others that are going just through what you are. So yeah, definitely not alone. So what would be your as a mom, you're a mom with special needs children. You're a mom who had special needs. You're the special needs consultant with HSLDA. So if we were going to get any words of advice, you would be the one we would want it from. So what would be your greatest word of encouragement to the mom that's overwhelmed? She has other kids at home, and that's what I often wonder with other kids at home. How do you balance that? How do you make sure you're meeting everybody's needs? Um, what would your greatest word of encouragement be to that mom?
Hmm.
No,
Wow, only one.
no. Yeah,
a
in fact,
couple, a
those
couple
that
of
are
nuggets.
listening would love any advice that you have as from the perspective of a mom or a student or just what you do with HSLDA.
Well, I'll share a little bit about me. So I feel like we're all struggling with balancing whether you have a child with special needs or not, because homeschooling is hard work. Let's face it.
Mhm.
It's not easy. It is a sacrifice and it's hard. So I think for me personally, I try every day to get up and have quiet time and have, like, for me, because I'm a Christian, I want time with the Lord, because I feel
Mhm.
like I need to be filled up before I can try to pour out and help other people, or even just face what's going on in the kitchen, right? Before
Right.
you go out to,
Totally.
the mess or whatever is happening that day. So I think self-care is really important. I think finding your tribe, finding a mentor. We do have group services on our group services page. We have also a listing for support groups by state
Mhm.
and by county. So I always tell parents, you have to have somebody. So for me, it's like Jesus and coffee, number one, in the morning. And then, like, you have to find your tribe. You need to have community, because we do often feel alone. And the reality is that we're not alone. There's
Right.
plenty of other people doing this, like you said. And it's
Right.
growing. It's growing by leaps and bounds because of a failing and broken system. Um, and there are good teachers in public schools. There really are. And there are teachers there that love students, but the system is broken. And so
I
kids
agree.
are falling through the cracks. Um, so I think those two things are really, really important. I think feeding yourself and arming yourself knowing that you are the expert when it comes to your child because you know them better than anybody and you love them, but getting some good materials to really feed your soul and your mind and your spirit to be that expert. So self-care, but also educating yourself so that you feel more confident and equipped. And I do have a couple of resources to share with that of just like arming yourself. So
yes,
we all have our curriculum, right? We get our curriculum and our materials, but on your teacher bookshelf, you should have Homeschooling Children with Special Needs.
Okay.
By Sharon Hensley.
Perfect.
This is an oldie but a goodie. It is so chock full. Homeschooling Children with Special Needs by Sharon Hensley. And then
that's across the whole spectrum of any special needs. That's the book we all need.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's phenomenal. She goes through all different like diagnoses, how we're feeling about, sometimes we're grieving, sometimes we're angry because of the situation we're in, but also she just really arms you with like the top picks of materials and curricula.
Oh my goodness.
And curricula that's a good fit for certain diagnoses. So
that's a must-have. We'll put a link for that on there too.
Yes. This is a must-have. Like next to my Bible. Like this. Yeah, like you gotta have this book. Okay. And then this one by Cheryl Swope. Are you guys familiar with this?
Simply Classical.
Beautiful Education for Any Child.
Okay.
So Cheryl Swope works for Memoria Press, and she has designed a curriculum called Simply Classical. So she educates in the classical model, but her daughter is on the autism spectrum and writes beautiful poetry. So this book is really, really encouraging. It's Cheryl sharing her story, her journey as a homeschool mom, but she's also an educational expert and a speaker and a writer. She is a master's degree in education and is a learning specialist. So
that book would be for anybody, special needs children or not. Is that correct?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, and we can have kids that are gifted with learning disabilities, twice exceptional.
Right.
So
and I'm getting some questions about that too. So for kids that are on the other end of the spectrum, they're super advanced, but they might have others. So these same books apply to the same thing. They're encouragement for any of us. And I think the advice that you gave, that is across the board for Jesus and coffee. That's across the board. But really, and chocolate and get outside. That's my message all the time.
Yes.
But I just constantly go back to that verse that says, I can do all things through him who gives me strength. And I really believe, parents, that if God gave you the children that you have, not by mistake, it wasn't the draw out of the hat. He created those children for you, and he's going to give you everything that you need to teach and train those children according to their needs, because he's God. He created them. He created you. So, and that's across the board for all of us. And he says that he will give us all things that we need for life and godliness. So that's your first stop, is God's word and time with the Lord. And then did you have another resource that you were about to grab? Because I'm frantically writing all these books down.
Yeah, I did, but I love what you just shared. And so there's another verse that goes along with that too, is out of Colossians, how God qualifies us.
Yes.
Right. And so I just started a Bible study. I won't tell the name of it on here, but a Bible study. And the teacher in the first session, that was one thing too, just reiterated that, God doesn't call the qualified, right? He qualifies the called. And when he calls us to do something, he equips us to do it. And the bottom line is what you said. I mean, he's already qualified us because we are the parents. He's given these children to us.
Right.
And we need his strength. And yes, we need one another and we need community, but God is going to give us everything that we need to do the work that he's called us to do, or he's going to lead us to people to help us, and he's going to lead us to the resources. And the other thing is that even if there's mom at home or dad at home saying, but I can't do this because I have this, or I'm not good at this, or I'm or I've experienced this, but God doesn't waste any of those things, oftentimes the things that are our struggles and are the hardest or the things that we've walked through, then he will use those things and he'll help us.
Yep. His
So
strengths are, perfect in our weaknesses. And he took all that into account. I always think about that when I get my list out of why I can't homeschool and how unqualified I am and how impatient I am and how tired I am. I think, you know what? None of that surprises God. He had all those things. He knew all those things when he made me the mom to these passel of kids, and he knew all that stuff. So thank you for that encouragement. So I know people are dying for more resources.
Okay. So this one, different.
Oh, I've heard of that one. Yeah,
Okay,
Sally,
so,
of course.
yeah, this is Sally Clarkson. Who doesn't love her,
You
right?
can't go wrong with Sally Clarkson.
Yeah. So she wrote this book, co-wrote this book with her son Nathan, and it's from both of their perspectives. So she'll have written a section and he will have written a section. And he was a very different learner and a very different student, and struggle with, I think, like some anxiety or depression and some fears and things. And he's very transparent about his struggles and their homeschool experience. And so this just is really, really, really encouraging. And it could even be like a book study or a Bible study.
So would you recommend reading that book with an older student, or like if you have an older child that has some learning, would that be a good book to read with your child, since it goes back and forth between Sally and her son?
I think so. I think it'd be a great jumping off point for discussion. I think for an older child, definitely to read that together and talk about it for sure. I know that Hal and Melanie Young, if you're familiar with Hal and Melanie Young, they have resources and books, and their son, who is extremely dyslexic, he often shares his story, and I think you can get it via MP3 or CD or something. That's really encouraging. His workshop, his talk, I think he and his mom do that together. And then they talk about how they were able to navigate high school and applying for accommodations. So
will you talk a little bit about that when it's time for high school, or even when it's time for college? Will you talk to the parent who has an older child who's actually they've made the commitment, they've come through the homeschooling, and they've got those older kids. What now?
So you mean what now, as in high school, or what now?
Like to go. Yeah. Once we've graduated high school, now what can we do for that? And like, do we need, so another question, let me just read this question. I got it. And hold on. Sorry. So I'm just going to read you this question. Let's just go with this one. We talked about high school and graduating a child with special needs. How do I get accommodations for post-secondary? How about testing for like the SATs, the ACTs? Talk on that a little bit.
Okay. So hopefully, the parent, the administrator of the school, will have already had documentation of some type, a diagnosis or their own observations. So what you're going to do is you're going to gather your documentation. If you've had a formal assessment, the psychologist, any therapist, things like that, and then your own observations. And to apply for accommodations for, let's say, for college entrance,
right?
As a homeschooler with the College Board, they have a process called Documentation Review Board. And if you go to their website, the Student Special Services or Students with Disabilities, when you go to their website, they do have an online portal, and it'll say most students apply through their school. Well, homeschool parents can't file with their online portal as of yet. That's not available to homeschooling families. So they have a form. There's a section on their website that says forms. So you'll click on that. There's a teacher survey form. I recommend parents fill one of those out, and then also have a coach or a therapist or a music teacher or a co-op teacher or somebody else who knows the student well fill out a teacher survey. So the parent should fill one out. somebody else should fill one out.
Okay.
Then have your documentation of diagnoses, any test reports, things like that. And then basically you're making an application packet. You're going to write a cover letter. This is my student. This is their diagnosis. These are the accommodations I'm asking for. Here's all the documentation. You mail that in, and it usually takes about, well, they're going to say 6-7 weeks, but I'm telling parents to start earlier and allow at least 8 or 9. So once you get all your documentation sent in, it's reviewed and they can say yes or no. Parents can ask for really just about any accommodation as long as you can justify why the student needs it. And they're looking for something called functional limitations. How does this student's diagnosis or disability impact them functionally? Well, reading and writing are major life functions. So, so we want to demonstrate, why does the student need extra time? Why does the student need frequent breaks? Or why does the student need to use a laptop and not bubble in? Or they need a scribe, or they need access to a snack, or they need to check their blood sugar, or whatever the situation is.
Okay.
So that's the College Board. ACT has their own process. Again, you mail stuff in. So that's for entrance exams. Now, I will say most colleges and universities are offering an alternative path for students to apply, but often you have to ask. Will you waive the ACT or SAT? What's an alternative pathway? Community college is a great pathway, transferring to university. But some colleges, they want to interview the student. They want an essay. They want to see a portfolio, or they're going to have the student read a book and then write an essay response to it. And then there's also, if people want to go to fairtest.org, FAIR, fairtest.org. They have a list of all colleges and universities that do not require the SAT or ACT, because we know that so many of our kids are quite capable of doing well in college, but they don't test well.
Absolutely. And any teacher knows that, and any teacher can tell you that. So really the message is, parents, is that don't freak out and say, I can't do this, because you can do this. You just need to plan ahead. You need to get your ducks in a row, but it's entirely doable.
It is.
You just need to reach out, get the resources you need. I see too many parents jump ship and say, well, if my kid wants to go to college, but they have these special, needs, we can't do it. It's all doable. You just need to plan ahead, make your path, reach out and get resources, but it is entirely doable to homeschool any child, any child that God has given you. I believe the best place to teach them is at home. So you've just really given everybody a lot of encouragement that it isn't only the best place, but it really is very doable. It is very doable. So I'm going to read through. We have tons of links popping up, everybody. So if you missed anything that Faith said, 1, check the links. 2, you can come back and watch this again. And 3, we'll post this to the Homeschool Idaho YouTube page, so you can come back at any time and watch it. So Faith, is there anything else that you want to hit on that we haven't hit on that you think would be an encouragement to these parents?
Well, I guess I love what you've said and the encouragement that you've shared. And, you're coming at this too, being a former teacher, you're an educator as well as a homeschool mom. And the reality is that our kids can do anything they put their minds to. They need an adult who believes in them, who's going to encourage them. And parents need to realize that their path may look a little different and may take a little longer, but with their love and their support and putting some accommodations in place or using assistive technology and reaching out, like you said, getting their ducks in a row, and just take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. And realize that public schools graduate students with special needs all the time. They're keeping them sometimes till 21, and they're working on life skills and employability skills. So there's nobody saying that we have to finish high school within 4 years. We can do 5 years. We can do alternative plans. We can do creative coursework.
That's the beauty of homeschool freedom is
It
we can do
is.
what's best for the kid, not what someone else is telling us we must do.
That's right.
So, yeah. So what a blessing to be able to homeschool these children, I believe, and all children, because even kids without special needs, sometimes we have to accommodate and make alterations and teach them on their own timing. So this has been such an encouragement to me, and I am praying that is an encouragement to other families that are listening. So I thank you so much. And where can people find you if they are like dying? If people come in, so this is like right at the dinner hour in Idaho.
Right.
So we don't always get a lot of moms right on, but they come back and then we end up with hundreds of questions popping in or hundreds of views. So if people are dying to ask you questions or they have the burning question, where can we find you? Where can we reach out to you?
Right. So they can email specialneeds@hslda.org. They could
Okay.
hop on the HSLDA Educational Consultant Facebook page and shoot us comments or questions.
Wonderful.
If they want to reach out personally, find me on Facebook. I do have a Facebook page called Faith Filled Homeschooling.
I
If you want
love that.
to friend me personally. So those are some ways to connect, and maybe sometime I'll come back to Idaho. I've been there once.
Yes.
I loved your all's conference, and it's a beautiful
Oh,
state. I love Linda Patchen, and she's just
yes.
wonderful.
She is
So it's
amazing. We have a lot of amazing, amazing people working with Homeschool Idaho. And not to be biased, but it is my favorite homeschool convention ever. So, and we actually have that coming up in June. So, you heard it from Faith here. Get to the Homeschool Idaho convention in June. Okay, so I'm seeing a few questions pop up. Before we close out, let's see. Oh, how about siblings of special needs students? Do you have any? This one actually says, do you have any book recommendations? But just talk a little bit about siblings of special needs kids.
well, oh boy, that could be a whole topic.
Yeah, we should. We
Whole
might have to
topic.
do a part two.
Well, again, I mean, Johnny and Friends. I think that mentoring. I think that. So I know that when you have a child with special needs, I mean, it's exhausting. It takes a lot of time, and the child with special needs gets so much attention. Then sometimes the siblings could maybe feel, left out or jealous or angry or whatever. And so, I mean, all families have our issues, right? So,
Yes.
there is a book, Krista, what is her last name? I can see the book. God's Good Design and Disability is the name of the book.
Okay.
The pictures are lovely. It's a picture book, something you can read and talk about as a family. At the end, it's kind of like a devotional, like a Bible study.
Wow.
And understood.org is a wonderful organization that has lots of resources. I feel like it's really important for whether you have kids with special needs or not. I guess this is one of the challenges of parenting is I really feel like it's important for us as parents to have special times set aside for each of our kids, like whether it's a daddy-daughter date or mom and son, and for everybody to get special time, but then also have good family time where we're all playing a board game together or watching a movie or something. But it's important for spouses, particularly if you have a child with special needs. There's a really high divorce rate and stress rate when you have a child with special needs. So again, I think that self-care is important, your spouse time,
Right.
but also the siblings, for them to have an outlet, for them to have time with mom and dad, or maybe a mentor, and to tap into what is that child's strength and their smart part, and make sure that they have time to pursue the things that are important to them, because so often we're busy taking the child with special needs to therapy and doctor appointments and things like that maybe the other sibling feels kind of cast aside. So
Right.
being intentional and prayerful, I mean, knowing that we can't do it all. There
Right.
might be a season where we're really going to focus for 4 weeks. You're going to get to do this special activity. I don't know. I don't have all the answers,
Yeah,
but I
no.
think we just need to
But we know the one
pray.
that does. We
We
can pray and we
do.
can go to the one that does. And I wanna say as a two-part, one, I also direct my local homeschool support group, and as a mom that does not have a special needs child, we don't always know that where you guys are and what your needs are. So I would ask, reach out.
Mhm,
If you have a special needs child, come to the co-op activities. Um, let us know what you need. If you need to take this child to a doctor's appointment or whatever, let us know because we want to help. We just don't always know how to help. So please do not isolate yourself. Please do not believe that you are a burden because you are not, or that your child is going to cause more stress in the life of those around you, because we are the body and we want to. So just as a mom who doesn't, as for my support group, I would want to know how we can support you. Um, can I bring you dinner when you've had a really hard day? I mean, I just want to encourage the families who don't fully haven't experienced it. We need to be there because we are the body and we are a community,
mhm,
but we don't always know how. So please reach out and ask. Just say, hey, could you take these kids because this kid needs to do this, and I don't want everybody to miss out on the activity. Or um, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to let your needs be known. We're all tired homeschool moms. We all are juggling. I have not met one homeschool mom that only homeschools. We're all juggling a million things. We're making meals, we're doing homeschool, we're taking care of families.
mhm.
Um, so we all need to rally around one another and support one another. So please reach out if you need help.
That's really good. That's so true.
All right. So we have so much information. You have given us so much information. I have amazing people on the other end of this that are popping up all the stuff that you've talked about. Such a great team we have here. So we know where to find you, Faith. People have great resources. Um, and I cannot thank you enough for coming on here, encouraging us. And I think that we will most definitely have you back because I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of questions coming in.
Aw. Well,
So
I really appreciate you inviting me.
yes. Well, you have an amazing message and a wealth of information and experience. So I am so blessed by what you shared. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Um, and we will talk to you soon. And I'm glad the
Okay.
dog took care of the bear.
Yeah. Sorry about all the barking.
That's okay. Have a great day. Bye, everybody.
Bye.